Good morning. Thank you for being here live, and if you watch our recording for Gather for Her, I would like to welcome you this morning. My name is Charlene San Jenko, and I'm the founder and CEO of Powerhouse. We are an impact media group who believes in building strong women who lead, and one of the most powerful ways we know to do that is by gathering together to share collective wisdom and to support each other and to harness the energy through connections, potential, bravery that come forward through these conversations. We just never do know what's going to happen. Before we kick off this morning's conversation, I just would ask you to ground into your morning. Maybe take a deep breath. I'd like to acknowledge the amazing home that I am privileged to live on here on the Sunshine Coast. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional lands of the Squamish First Nation, and I just encourage you to spend a moment and give gratitude for where you call home and how we are all connected to each other and to our homes this morning for a great conversation. I am grateful to host these conversations with three amazing co-facilitators, one of which we are actually putting into our guest seat today to learn a little bit more about her. So I will first introduce you to Christina Benty, who is my co-host. And for those of you that know Christina, she needs no introduction. For those of you that do not know her yet, I will tell you that she is one of my closest friends and colleagues. She's a retired politician. She's a jazz singer, and she's the owner of Strategic Leadership Solutions, which is a consulting firm designed to assist teams in building a culture of excellence in leadership and government. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Charlene, and good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am very excited about this conversation with Sharon.
Me too. I'll swing it over to Tina just to say good morning. Tina Overbury is here with us this morning from Bowen Island, and she is our story tracker. I have the privilege of working very closely with Tina, who is a core communications specialist. And she works with individuals and organizations who feel called, which is something very important and present in the Powerhouse conversations. What do you feel called to do? She's a storyteller, performer, and professional listener who works with narrative and story structure as a vehicle for human connection. Good morning, Tina.
Good morning. I have my listening ears on.
So great. Good morning to each of you who have made the time and priority to join us this morning for an intentional conversation. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our very special guest this morning. Our Indigenous sister from Vancouver Island, Sharon Marshall. I just want to tell you just a little bit about Sharon, and we have had the pleasure of working together for, I want to say almost 2 years. And Sharon is constantly and consistently blossoming into her fullest potential, just right in front of our eyes. And we're really excited to have a conversation to have all of you get to know her just a little bit better and what she is up to in the world in terms of building impact. Every week she joins us, whether it's live or afterwards through the recording, and her gifting, and then I'm going to ask each of my co-hosts to also kind of weigh in on this as I introduce Sharon. But in my view, her gifting is to be able to listen and to gather, to harvest collective wisdom from a very special place. And we call that, I call that through an Indigenous lens. And then she's able to actually express what she's heard visually and graphically through an image, which I'm such a visual person that those images are just like, they're just like gold to me, because they're just so, they're just so deeply meaningful, and the conversation is tracked, it's recorded. And I just love that intention. But Christina, how would you add to that introduction of Miss Sharon?
Oh, you know what? I was just writing a couple notes actually while you were talking, because I was thinking I wanted to add that Sharon is, when you're in Sharon's presence, she is such a regal and wise and an astute wisdom keeper. And like you said, harvests wisdom from others, but also holds that wisdom. And she, Sharon is a person who just embodies that a regal presence. The other thing that's really important to know about Sharon is she has a freaking hilarious sense of humor. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. And I realize it's not easy to, and it's not difficult to make me laugh, but Sharon hits me out of left field. I'm like, what? She's so funny. But I loved what you said about blossoming. That's one thing in my experience for knowing Sharon for a couple of years. She's constantly growing, emerging, and blossoming, and owning her own space in the world. And I have deep respect and regard for Sharon.
Love that.
I'm pleased to be here.
Tina, I know we're not going to leave her anything to say. We'll just talk. We'll just talk around her like she's not. Yeah, like she's not. Okay, we're going to turn it to you in 1 second, Miss Sharon. Tina, how should we finish this intro off?
Well, just like the two of you, there's a zillion things that I could say, but what comes to mind more than anything is your artistry, Sharon. It's you have an exceptional way of communicating, whether visually or in words, the complexity in such a beautiful, like captivating way. And it's just within you, and it must be the combo of the wisdom and the humor. And then the other piece that we've often commented on about you, that's always like this great surprise, is the silent, like the power in your stillness is unlike anything I've seen anywhere in my life in anybody else. It is riveting and simple and captivating. So yeah.
Wow. So just take all that, all that in, love. So and what you should know if you've never met Sharon, so there's just on a very personal, hearts are open level. She's an Indigenous entrepreneur. She's the founder of Diva Training and Staffing Solutions, which we'll definitely be talking about today. And she's the founder and president of Creative Collaboration, Inc. Good morning, Ms. Sharon. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Shar, and thank you, lovely ladies, Tina and Christina. Wow. I am beside myself with gratitude and open heart for your beautiful, beautiful words. Yeah, and I just want you to know that I am me because of you. So,
thank you.
So thank you.
So we'll jump into this conversation, but it was really important for us to have you know just a little bit more about Sharon as we know Sharon, and one of the things that Gather for her is being able to see a part of yourself perhaps a little more fully because of how others see you. And you know, I think that's always so great about these types of intimate gatherings, is they can be a bit of a reflection. Gather for Her is just that. It's an opportunity for us to share and explore collective wisdom. We never do know exactly what's going to come forward in these conversations. There's a whole lot of trust and a whole lot of faith and curiosity and openness, and we just keep gathering with a very loose framework to just keep us on the rails. So our theme for June, I'll jump into our first question, is building impact. And in the context of where we are at in the world right now, kind of feel like a nice deep collective breath may be needed there. In the context of where we are in building and rebuilding our world right now, and our place in the world right now as intentional, heart-centered leaders. You know, we're I think having that conversation of what is building impact, rebuilding impact. What does that even mean? What does that feel like and look like? And what piece of it do we want? And can we play? So just on a very broad level, just to kick off the concept, I'd love to turn it over to our co-facilitators to weigh in on, and then Sharon to maybe get a little more specific into, you know, her personal journey around building impact right now. But Christina, what comes up for you around this conversation of building impact?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm almost a little stumped for words because of the vast expression of building impact and what it means for each one of us. And because I think about our ability to turn the tides, right? To be heart-centered leaders, even when it's difficult, right? And even when we are surrounded with so much noise, a lot of fear and anxiety and so much, and sadness and grief. And I think it's important to acknowledge that it's really important to acknowledge that those things exist. But it's also really important to stand in them, to not run away from them, but to stand in them with bravery and courage and honesty and with wisdom. And this comes back to, you know, Sharon's gift as a wisdom keeper. How do we do that? And I loved I loved what Tina said about Sharon's very presence. What was it? Her presence carries her presence carries that wisdom in her word. And when she's speaking, you lean in to listen, because the energy is not that fearful, frenetic, anxiety-ridden energy. It's a grounded energy. And I still believe, I know I've said this so many times, our non-anxious presence in the face of everything that's going on, our grounded presence is our greatest gift to the world. It really is. And so when I think about building impact, you build impact by your grounded presence wherever you go. And you can diffuse fear and anxiety and you can diffuse those things in such a way that that people want to lean in, right? And like I said, I've had that experience with Sharon, just like a wanting to lean in and to listen to what she has to say. Mm-hmm. And being a person who's super wordy, that is it's such an honor to bear witness to.
Yeah, I love that. So to kick things off, just building impact, starting with just bringing a grounded presence to every conversation, every interaction. Tinao, what comes up for you this morning?
Just kind of building on where we've been. I got this visual from Christina and when you said turn the tides, and then with bravery and then leaning in, I was like, right, to build impact, it's that courage to stand where the tide, like right on the edge, like right on the, like not where you've been and not where you're going, but right in between. Like, and that takes so much silent. This is like, doesn't have to be silent, but I somehow see it that way. Maybe because Sharon's in the room, but that silent courage to stand in that place and know which direction to lean. Right in that, because it's the key word is impact, right? It's not just building. It's not just building things. We're like building impact. Okay, so then we're affecting change. So we got to stand in that place and lean in. Yeah. Section.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharon and ask that same contextual question. Just, you know, and I'll encourage, as you're listening to Sharon's answer, to start to form your own. Because as soon as, you know, that'll be the next piece. We'd like to hear from each of you on your thoughts. But, you know, Sharon, I'd like to give you the space to, building impact. What's coming up for you this morning?
Building impact. So I agree with Christina with the grounded energy, of course. That's where I try to come from. But Tina, what came to my mind when you mentioned the courage to stand on the edge or in between is the gap, the courage to stand in the gap and be that bridge. And so, you know, for me, building impact means on a larger level or a macro level more about changing lives, providing hope by providing hope. And hope, as you know, I break it down to helping other people excel. And so
I love that.
The courage to stand in the gap and be that bridge and change lives by offering hope.
Thank you, Sharon. Am I the only one? How come I haven't heard that HOPE acronym before? Am I the only one? Like, is that, Sharon, that's awesome. I'm sorry if I've missed that. I love that, helping other people excel. It's so simple, but yet it's the world is, if there was one thing I could like shake onto the world right now, it would be hope, right? So that word just jumps out at me. Wow, that's great. I'd love to open it up to the group to, if you have not yet shared, I'm gonna ask Tina to just read out some of the answers that come in. And as you do so, I just want to reflect back on Sharon's, you know, her point about being a bridge, and Sharon with the Diva project, and Ticia with the project that we've been working on with Power Play. The word bridge is very, very present in our work right now. And it's interesting, like what came up this morning for me was building back better, which actually means braver. It's easy to build back the same because we've been there. And then when Sharon said that, I was like, I believe our role is to be that bridge to better. And that is not an easy role to play, because you're stretching between, like literally stretching between what it has been and what you know can be better. You're hopeful. And I read something, or I listened to a podcast, and I know I have shared it with, you know, with each of you before, but just you cannot be innovative without being afraid. It just doesn't exist. So I love what you said, Sharon, about just having that belief that to be the bridge, and it's scary. It can be scary. So
And
Well, yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Sharon.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm noticing that there's radio silence, which is probably a good thing. It just means something is, like, in answer to your question, it's actually in the body right now. I just want to name that.
Cool.
It's hard for me to stay quiet. You guys know that. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ticia.
Hi. I'm doing this from my mother-in-law's living room this morning, but you know, that the building impact and the bridge, there's also a piece for me that's, a bridge is sturdy. You know, it's kind of that we cross them all the time, and we always trust that they're going to get us to the other side. And so I think that that's, for me right now, is we're here to be the strength for the you know, people that we're here to help, you know, serve them as that solid, safe place to transition. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Any other thoughts, Sharon, or should we jump into more specifically your vehicle for impact? I don't want to leave this until you're ready, but yeah.
Sorry, I have one comment. It's Pam. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Pam.
Morning.
Nice to see you, Charlene, and
Good
everyone else.
morning.
When you talk about impact, I really grabbed on the concept of your commentary of being grounded presence, and the words around comfortable and quiet. You know, sometimes it takes giving other people the space and the platform to speak before you provide your guidance, your wisdom, or whatever that may be. And it's very timely. I just read an interview of Dr. Shahab, who is Saskatchewan's chief medical officer during coronavirus, and is seen as our nation's chief medical officers as a great leader. And one of the things that has described him is his calm and considered thought. And as you speak, Sharon, that's how I would describe your conversation, is considered thought. That's silence before you speak. And Dr. Shahab had described his father, who was a renowned East Indian artist, business leader, as having wisdom, as having courage. But the last thing he said that was most profound is that he was comfortable in silence. And I thought that was that's an important quality of leadership, and it's kind of where we started today. So I just wanted to share. It's timely how this aligns. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. So Sharon, I'm curious with this as the context, right? And I personally know what you're up to in the Diva Project, but I really want to hold some space for this really important, timely vehicle of impact that you're driving forward. And I'm wondering, just to introduce it to anyone that may not know about it, how would you speak first about the bridge, and what's most needed in this bridge through the Diva Project?
Okay, so thank you. I will explain it as quickly as I can, as succinctly as I can, what the Diva program is. Now, we have been calling it the project, but actually the Diva Project has grown up. It was a pilot, and it was actually something that I have been working on since 2014. So it's been a long process. But when I think back, it's like, wow, that, you know, it's quick as well as it has been long. I have 15 plus years experience as a virtual assistant, and, you know, 30 plus years as an administrative professional. So I know I'm dating myself, but I found out about when I learned about the stats of indigenous people in remote communities, I just broke down and cried and thought, there's got to be something that I can do to help. In some of these communities, the unemployment rate is 49% and more. Suicides are 5 to 7 times more prevalent in these communities than in non-Indigenous communities. just the stats, I think pretty much everybody knows the stats. They're outrageous. And so what can I do to help? I'm just one person. I'm just me. I'm an administrative professional. What can I do to help? Well, God has given us all gifts, and I believe she wants us to share our gifts with the world. That, you know, and so from an Indigenous perspective, as you know, Indigenous people believe in short, we share our wealth. That's showing our leadership is by sharing our wealth. And so our wealth is our gifts. And so to share our gifts with the world is what I believe we're meant to be, what we're meant to do in this world. And so what can I offer? Well, I'm an administrative professional. And, you know, as a virtual assistant, what I kept finding over and over again is that there is a lack of capacity in many of these communities. And so why don't I teach women how to become administrative professionals? And, you know, and then it all started to click and make sense, you know, especially in the remote communities where they have to leave their communities to find work. And, you know, I don't know, there's lots of horror stories about what has happened to many of these men and women when they leave their communities. And you know, when they find work, the work is subpar. It's, you know, menial work, menial pay, and they can't survive, you know, like, so the Diva Project pilot was born from that.
Sharon, I don't want to interrupt, but I wanted to kind of spur you on with a bit of a memory. And when we first met, and we worked through Speak together, one of the assignments in Speak, like one of the exercises, was a rant. And when I heard you talk about the funding that was going into connecting communities with, you know, high-speed internet and whatnot throughout Canada. Do you remember the rest of the rant? I wondered if you could share that, a little bit of what you remember with folks, because I still remember your talk and that part of it, and that I think that was one of the things that impacted me most about, I was like, this just makes so much sense. I've got to get behind this.
Right. So, you know, to work online, you need the internet. And a lot of these communities don't have the internet. And so the federal government is pouring all this money into high-speed internet for these communities. And that's all fine and dandy. But then what, you know? So now they've got the internet, you know, unless we go in there and provide them with some kind of training, we're just bringing them Facebook and Netflix, you know? And so my goal is to go in there and provide Indigenous women with the digital tools to be able to use their computers, whether it be for administrative work or whether they want to help create their website to sell their artwork, or, you know, there's so many avenues, but just to give them the digital tools to be able to use the internet to their advantage, and then they don't have to leave their communities.
I love that. I'm going to open it up to Tina and Christina to reflect back. I mean, obviously they've walked beside you very closely, you know, over the last year or more, to reflect back on what they feel the impact is through the Diva that you're making, or anything that's coming up from them. But for me, when I heard you say that for the first time, you know, well, why are we spending so much money on all this high-speed internet and hooking up all these communities, and we're not connecting all of the dots. We're not bridging all of the gaps. So you're just helping people get better access to Facebook and Netflix. And I was like, duh. Like, so I'd love to invite Tina and Christina to weigh in on this. Yeah.
I'm pointing at Christina because I'm really hoping she's going to like address that last line. Then they don't have to leave their communities. I'm hoping your brain's going there.
Oh, well, it didn't go there. However, I was thinking about the fact that because I've traveled to so many remote communities across Canada, Sharon, your work is so important. One of the things I've noticed particularly about remote communities, is there's a very strong sense of place, and people, they want to be there, and community is very important to them. And the sense of their connection to land and space and to community in probably a broader sense than we understand it is very, very important. So I love that. But I think, I was thinking about your acronym for HOPE and how powerful that was, and helping other people excel. And I was going to ask you a question, Sharon. How important is it for you to see the diamond underneath the maybe some of the grime and grit of the person? How important is it for you in your work to see the diamond and see how people can excel? And is that kind of, does that encapsulate some of the idea of helping people excel, live in their best self energy?
It's one of the core pillars of the work that I do. So, for example, one of my star divas, and I call her a star because of her age. She's young, but she had this initiative. And so she reminded me of my younger self. I've always taken the initiative. I've always striven, is that a word? Strived for better. And she came to me a couple of years ago, and she was a server. She didn't have any administrative skills, but she wanted to work in an office. That was her goal. And she saw my ad, and I was working with her before the pilot actually launched. I tried to start the pilot, and I had no funds at that time. But I saw the little diamond in her, and now she's, we're honing where she's starting to really shine, and it really is important to give people the platform to. I feel that Diva is the platform to help women, to empower women to see the magnificence and the greatness of themselves.
Awesome, that's beautiful. I just want to take you everywhere I go.
Tina, what are you hearing? What are you hearing in this piece of the conversation?
I'm still really, really locked in they don't have to leave their communities. And I think that very much connects to who you are, Sharon, and the way I experience you and the way that you live. Home is important. The garden is important. And it's not so much the house is important, the garden is important. It's like the connection to place is really important. And then, so then I'm also thinking just in the COVID space where we're all homebound. And I don't know if this is alive for anybody, but I'm noticing the longer I'm at home in my surroundings, the more healed I become. And I'm wondering, Sharon, in what you might offer us in the importance of working in the place that you live. You personally, I mean, it's not about you personally, but the Diva Project, like empowering these women to be able to stay in their communities.
Well, I think one thing that that working and staying in your community does is it offers that safety and security that we all need. Now, if you think of Maslow's law of the hierarchy of needs, we can't excel to that next level until we have met our basic needs. And so, until we feel safe and secure and we have a roof over our heads, and so that goes beyond the roof. So, being in your community, being in your home. Once you have that sense of safety and security, then you can start looking at the next level, and you start exploring what that might be for you. And so so for me, when I think of that, what I think DIVA offers Indigenous women in remote communities, I think of the chrysalis and the butterfly. You know, it really, this image of DIVA is the cocoon. We provide the safe place for the divas, for the women to explore who they are. Because one of the things that I've really decided is important for this program is to have them find their niche and work with their niche. And so I'm not trying to create generalists. I'm trying to create, really, I'm trying to find that diamond in the rough and help them figure out what it is that they really, and Chris and Charlene, you helped me with that. When we were talking about a certain person's video editing skills, you know, and that's just like, yes, that's what I want. That makes the most sense, is to be able to, and so they can explore that. So then the cocoon is a diva, and then all of a sudden, once they all of a sudden, boom, they break out of their cocoon. They've graduated from diva. And they're this beautiful butterfly. They have these gifts, you know, or gift that they can share with the rest of the world. Did that answer your question?
Wow, I just want to add one thing, and particularly the conversation around safety and a cocoon and being in your community. And when you feel grounded and safe, and then you actually have the grounding to deal with uncertainty that exists in the world, right? And when you don't have that sense of safety and grounded energy, and that hope that you have talked about, and that helping, creating that helping environment, that cocoon, then when you're bombarded with certainty, you don't have the footing. And this goes back to what Tina was talking about, right? Standing in the gap at the edge to change the tides, right? So it's a both and. This is a both and conversation. So what you're doing is providing really practical, tactical ways to exist in the world, so that then when, you know, because we're all living in uncertainty right now, but if you don't have that internal safety and capacity, then you can't bear what's happening externally.
Right. And so with DIVA, it's not just about the administrative or digital skills. You know, they can't get there to what you're talking about, Christina, without the soft skills. So, you know, like learning how to emotional intelligence, learning how to think on your feet, those sorts of things. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert in any of that, but I can certainly share my wisdom, and I hope that in the end the girls come out of it much wiser with those skills, because it's an online program. I mean, you know, like you figure, how do you teach those? Well, you know, you teach by storytelling. You teach by, I've got lots of examples. I mean, my life is like, phew.
So I want to head into kind of a question that might bring some conversation into the group, because we're getting to that time that I do want to honor it and open it up, and we've got a couple of questions coming in from people as well. But here's where I'd love to take the conversation, and we're circling around it right now. It's around the word contribution. And in my experience, and I'm curious how many people agree with me, but one of the best ways to help a woman to feel empowered and to truly see her own magnificence is by having her witness her own contribution to making something better, and that she was a part of that, her contribution, her gift. And last week, Tina brought up our guest, Tina Roosevelt, brought up the importance of holding another person in their wholeness, which I think is your cocoon, but the importance of holding another person in their wholeness with complete acceptance, not complacency, but complete acceptance, while still seeing their absolute magnificence and dancing between the two. So I would actually like to I'd like to encourage us to move into this question of how do we hold someone and have them see themselves as completely whole. None of this is about trying to fix anyone. It's about helping them to see and polish up that jewel with complete acceptance and understanding that their absolute magnificence and potential is right there. So I'd encourage you to actually move into gallery view. And Christina, do you have anything to kind of kick us off on? I'd like to open it up a little bit for conversation on this.
Yeah, I want to add to that we cannot give to anyone else what we first don't give to ourselves. And it can happen concurrently, but we must walk that walk and then give it simultaneously so that it can be absorbed by somebody else, right? So giving it to ourselves, seeing ourselves in our wholeness, right? And then actually magnifying that out and seeing other people. And so I'm going to come back to the fact that I actually really believe that's an inside job so that it can be an outside job.
Mm. And Tina has reminded me, I want to honor that. We have a question from Hillary, and then I will close out the formal part of this conversation. I will quit recording for our gathering. But I just want to actually record Hillary's great question, just about Sharon, how can we best help you at this moment? How can we best support the program moving forward right now at this time, June 2020?
Well, that's a good question. Thank you for asking, Hillary. Certainly amplifying my message to other people and sharing it with Indigenous women as well. And so I'm looking for participants for this, the new cohort. I actually yesterday I received a Raven bursary. And so the program, so that will pay for half of that'll pay for half of one student's tuition.
Nice.
And so that's wonderful. And I've been promised some other sponsorship from the federal government, and I don't know what that looks like yet, but so that's a start. And my next cohort, I want a minimum of 10 women, and there's many reasons for that, but the biggest one is I want to be able to provide a community for each cohort, so that these women have their sisters to work with and spelling yard, just to have for support.
Mm-hmm.
So letting people know about the program, going to my website, having a look at what it's about, asking me questions. Sponsorship, finding students, the whole gamut. So Are you sorry you asked?
No, that's great. We'll make sure and include your website here and as well the links and your new video in on our follow-up communication.